Evening, folks. Listen, what I'm going to do, I've noticed if I'm doing a kind of a live type, in fact, no, I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to leave it. I'm talking bollocks. Well, I'll tell you what I was actually thinking of there when I was recording the Friday Waffle last week. It can be quite off-putting staring at the screen, and like obviously seeing yourself when you know that there's not actually anyone listening. I mean, I know people will listen later on, but when you're recording it live, not live, when you're recording it and you're just talking to a machine, it can be quite off-putting. So what I did was, you may have noticed it got a bit kind of duller, is I turned off the monitor, so I was like just kind of talking to a black screen, if that makes any sense. But I was going to turn the screen off there just now, but the fact that I'm actually talking to some live people makes all the difference. So it's fine. Evening Del, evening Moving Shadow. Good evening. I've not seen you in the stream at all. Always nice to see new faces. And Mark, whatever. Good evening, mate. I was and Mr. Flanagan. How are you, Craig? What was I going to say? Yeah, I wasn't actually going to record a waffle tonight because I was playing pool with a friend. Evening, Steve. I was playing pool with a mate, and I thought it was going to be a kind of late night, but he is, hey, Mr. Morrison, how the hell are you, mate? It's been a while, and Shinobi as well. My God, you're all coming out the bloody woodwork tonight. Yeah, I thought I was going to be playing till quite late, but he's actually got his kids tomorrow morning, and tomorrow morning I've got my what do you call it, my Cooksoul testing or grading, whatever you want to call it, where you basically get beasted stupid for I think it's 2 hours, and yeah, if you come through the other end, then hopefully I will get my brown belt. So I've got that to look forward to tomorrow. I never enjoy these things. It's whilst I think I'm kind of doing all right for an old bloke. The the lack of fitness is what's difficult. I mean, at Cooksoul, there's a lot of young people. I mean, there's kids from like, I don't know, 8 years old, plenty teenagers and all that, and you're really getting put through the grinder, and it's tough. Anyway, what I'm moaning about, I'm not looking forward to it, but hopefully, if I pass it, I will get my brown belt. So, what have I been doing this week? I was at Cooksoul on Monday. No, I wasn't actually. I wasn't feeling particularly great. Yeah, there was a few people at my work were off. They had, I don't know if they had COVID or not, but I felt a bit kind of crap on Monday. Still went to work, but I didn't go to Cooksoul. Tuesday I was playing pool. Wednesday I was at Cooksoul. That sounds like it's poetry. Playing pool, then Cooksoul. And then last night, what did I do last night? What the bloody hell did I do last night? It must have been nothing interesting. Can't remember. I'll tell you what I was actually playing. I don't know if you've listened to Paul Drury's Nice and Nasty. One of his favourite games is a game called, what's it called? Jump Bug? Yeah, Jump Bug. Uh, how do I describe Jump Bug? Is it called Jump Bug? I think it is. You play the part of a car, and the screen scrolls from right to left, and there's all these buildings, and on top of each building, it's just like two-dimensional, obviously. I mean, I think it came out in 1981 or something, and I think it uses the same. I think it's Galaxian hardware actually. You can tell when you switch it on that it's a Galaxian kind of hardware. But the idea is you've got to just jump on top of buildings, and on each building there's little bags of money, and you pick up the money, and you can also fire because you do get these other kind of weird. I don't know what they're called, the Joker or something. It's a bizarre game. But what I really like about the Nice and Nasty is getting to find out, discover, you know, some awesome games and some really, really bad games. I'm actually tempted to maybe, I don't know, after, I was going to say after episode 10. I mean, I think I'm up to, I think I mistakenly said it was the last one was episode 15. It was actually 16. I might actually, when I get to 20, make a note of all the worst games and do a video about them, try and play them, something like that. I don't know. I don't know. So, what else did I do this week? The guys at my work have been going on and on about how good June, the film June is. Not the David Bowie one, that is apparently completely wank. The 2021. So acquired the film and I watched it on. When did I watch it? I watched it one night this week, and I have to say, whilst I didn't really know what was going on, I really enjoyed it. I mean, there's not many films nowadays that I watch and go, oh, that was the special effects and that were great because we all know it's CGI. I mean, even bloody adverts. Evening, Colin and Martroyd, how are you, mate? Even adverts now are CGI, so I've just become completely like bogged down with CGI. You don't get impressed with CGI anymore. But I have to say, I thought that the scale of Dune, I'm not going to give you any spoilers. The fact I didn't know what happened anyway, I can't possibly give you spoilers even if I wanted to. The scale of the sort of landscape, um, plus I've got to say, I don't think I've ever said this, but the music and the sound effects, well, more the music in the film are just epic. It's really like a big, you're seeing something special. And having my kind of surround the sound system, it was great. Really enjoyed it. So I was going to go and, in fact, I was going to go and see June 2 last night, but then I mentioned to my girlfriend, she went, "Oh, I wouldn't mind seeing June 2." I says, "Well, you need to see June 1 first." So it looks like I'm going to be watching June 1 again, and then we'll probably go to the cinema to see the second one. From what I've heard, it's meant to be even better than the first one. So that has pretty much been my week. Nothing overly exciting, I should say. I am actually going to be starting a new job on the 1st of April. Yep, I know. Um, it's for the same company, but I'm going to be doing a kind of a mobile role. Um, so looking forward to that. It's like any new job that you take on. It's a wee bit scary. They're going to be giving me a car, which I didn't want to begin with, but the car they're giving me is meant to be pretty good on the old kind of tax. So which is ideal because when we go down to a nice segue into this next section. When we go down to Arcade Club, get a note in your diaries, folks. The Mainmeister tour is hitting Arcade Club on Friday the 19th and Saturday the 20th of next month. There's going to be, I think so far, there's me, Craig, who's in the stream. There's Wee Bob. I don't think Wee Bob's in tonight. We're all Scottish. Don't hold it against us. We're going to be travelling down from Scotland down to Arcade Club in Bury. We've got a hotel. We've booked two twin rooms, I should say, because Colin Jones is going as well, and I think there's a few other people that are going to be going along for the day. Excuse me, sorry about that. I should really have muted the microphone. So that's yeah next month. It'd be great to see people like Dell and anyone that's kind of in the vicinity. I know it's quite far for Dell, but it's trust me, it's further for us to travel. It's a long way, but you know it should be good. I think the plan is to. I've actually taken a half day off my work, so hopefully Craig and Bob will do the same, and we can kind of leave at no, I don't know, kind of lunchtime, get down to Bury, I don't know, about 8, 9, no, not 8, 9 o'clock, it'll be before that, it's about probably 4 hours. And then the plan is to go out for a curry and then just have a few beers. we were thinking about like going to arcade club on the Friday as well, and then obviously spend all day on the Saturday. But if I'm being perfectly honest with you, as much as I like things like arcade club, I don't get bored. But I think I think a full day is more than plenty to spend. I know you could. I know plenty of people could spend 2 days. I don't know. I think one day is quite enough. So it'd be nice. It'll be, what do you call it? It'll be good to just chill out, have a few beers. I'm sure Mr. Flanagan will end up dragging us to some over 50s disco that he did the last time. And yeah, Craig and I have we were down. What one of the highlights of when we were at Arcade Club the last time, apart from meeting everybody, was Craig and I played. Is it Super Sidekicks? I think it was in a Neo Geo, and getting to play a video game when you're standing shoulder to shoulder with somebody, it's I miss that. I miss that kind of interaction. You can't replicate that, playing online and all that kind of shit. It's great. And yeah, I think he beat me 2-1. But anyway, we'll not talk about that. So looking forward to Arcade Club. If you're going to be about, I says it's the one in Bury, the 19th. No, not the 19th. The 20th. We'll be down there on the 19th. If you're around, give us a shout. You're more than welcome to come out for a curry with us. But we will be spending all day on the Saturday at Arcade Club. Uh, and then we're going to be staying in obviously a hotel Friday night, Saturday night, and then we'll be coming back up the road on Sunday morning. So yeah, should be good. Should be good. LFC, are you going to get along? I did see you. Was this? It'd be great if you could get along, mate. As I says, 20th of April. Get it in the diary. That would be good. So anyway, listen, I haven't got, I've not, in fact, I've not really come up with any topics at all to talk about tonight. But I've got to say, after having my regular whinge about the lack of topics, you guys have really knocked it out of the park last week. I've got tons of questions here, which is great. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish it off with. It's been a while since we did a bit of a watch with Mainmeister, where we watch a sort of bit of classic retro gaming TV. So we're going to. I've got one there. I just watched a 10-second clip. It looks like I think it's a UK program. It looks pretty good. So we'll finish off with that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my head round there and answer some of the questions. I'm going to have a quick drink of my coffee first. Right. Because I've got Cook Soul tomorrow. I don't want to. In fact, you know what? Nah, I'm just going to leave the screen on. It's fine. I'll move the chat over here like so. There we go. Right, from last week's Friday Waffle, I've got a question here, which I'm going to read out, but I'm not going to answer it, and I'll tell you why in a second. It's from somebody called ZX-HJ8MX. That really trips off the tongue. ZXX. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, thanks for the question. He's saying, or not the question, it might be a lady, I don't know. I would love to hear a waffle about growing up in 1980s Scotland and how things have changed since then. What decisions were made during those years that you think have made current Scotland better or worse today? Do you still love Scotland, and what do you think the state of Scotland will be during your retirement? Which, incidentally, isn't that far away, which is bloody terrifying. It doesn't need to be political. I don't do politics anyway. It could be about technology. Now, you know what? I think that's kind of what I'm looking for, folks. Stuff like that. It's not just a simple yes or no or what's your favourite game, whatever. That's an excellent. That's a whole waffle in there. So I'm not going to answer it this week. I'm going to actually record a waffle and dedicate it just to that one. I think that's really good. So thank you very much, ZX, for that. I said you're going to get your own dedicated waffle. Milthy Swinbuckle, 51. Was he always called Milty Swinbuckle 51, 58? Hmm. Anyway, right, let's have a look. Al taking up golf soon. What are you on about? Am I taking up golf? I've no idea what you're talking about, Mark. Or is that? See, this is the thing. I see my name splattered all over the internet. I see Al all the time, and I realise it's AI. I've no idea what you're gibbering about. Anyway, right, Milty Swinbuckle. Hopefully, I can answer this. Question for next Waffle. Before you kick the bucket, hopefully not for a while yet, what things within reason would you like to see achieved by humankind? Ah, right, okay, taking up golf. Nah, it's not going to happen. So I'm going to start again. Before you kick the bucket, hopefully not for a while, what things within reason would you like to see achieved by humankind? And what things, again, within reason, would you like to see get discovered by those dirty things known as humans? Phew, bloody hell. I mean, what things would I like to see invented apart from the the the, the stereotypical? I'd like to see world peace and the end, a cure for cancer and that kind of stuff. I mean, that would be the obvious ones. I'd love to see that. Is there any is there any kind of like I don't know, what things would you like to see achieved by humankind? I don't know. I think I would quite like to see us eventually branch out to other planets, whether it's the moon or Mars or whatever. Because I think the Earth that we live on now, this planet of ours, it is quite literally getting run into the ground. There's too many people living on it. We're draining all the resources. We're killing wildlife. We're we're destroying Earth. We really are. And when I come home at night, I don't have my own parking space, but I've got a parking space outside my house which doesn't belong to me. But you know what? Sometimes I come home and there'll be people parked in it, and what really, really gets on my nerves is there are some houses in my street where there's like 3 or 4 cars for one household, and the street quite simply isn't big enough for all these cars. I've got one car, that is it. I've got one car, no other cars at all, and yeah, you come back and it's like fucking hell, you can't get a parking space because the guy 4 doors up, him, his wife, and his 2 kids, they've all got cars and they just take up all the parking spaces. So yeah, I think we're starting to get saturated. There's too many people on this planet. So it would be nice to actually see us eventually venture out into outer space and to be able to exist on other planets and maybe give this planet a rest for a while. I don't know. From a sort of technology point of view, what did he say again? Get discovered. Technology point of view, what would I like to see? I think I'm going to move that. It's awful loud. I think having what do you call it? Having cars that have batteries that don't cost the earth, quite literally, don't cost the earth to charge, and you get a decent range. I mean, it would be fantastic if we could all become, every car becomes battery operated. That looks stupid sitting up there. Every car becomes battery operated, and it would, stop us drilling for fossil fuels and what have you. So having a decent battery operated car would be quite nice. Um, Anything else? Should we invent, time travel? Well, you did say not within reason. I wouldn't mind time travel actually. It would be nice to be able to, when bad shit happens, you can just kind of reverse it and try and kind of stop it happening. Uh, it would, what I would really like, and I am a hypocrite because I'm a carnivore. I do eat meat. but I've been exposed to a number of videos over the last sort of couple of months that kind of pop up on Facebook. It's all these little short videos, and it's just how cruel the human race is to our fellow inhabitants. I.e., animals and fish and what have you. But just it's bloody awful. It really, really is. And I would love for us to get to a situation where I know because people will say, well, wait a minute, chickens are only bred, chickens and sheep are bred for us to eat. It would be fantastic if we could sustain ourselves without killing animals. I don't have a problem with an animal being killed, but it's the way they're held in cages and God knows what. It's awful, absolutely awful. And I know I should be vegetarian, to kind of make my point, and I'm not. And it's for the simple, and it's that old excuse. Well, what's the point of me being a vegetarian? It's not going to make any difference to sheep and cows and what have you. And I think that's probably true. Um, but I am a hypocrite. I know that. Yeah, Steve's just saying they're having. You know what? See this chat thing. What really, really pisses me off. I wonder if you can get rid of it. I don't think you can. Timestamps, reaction. Oh, can I get rid of that? Hey, I can. No, I've just managed to do it. See in the chat. I don't know if do you guys see the chat at all? Or you guys will just see the chat on YouTube, I take it. Yeah, you will. Um, on this OBS, there's a chat kind of dock thing. You can see all the chat at the side. But for some weird reason, there's got this bloody big love heart thing, and it obscures the bottommost comment. But I've just managed to turn it off. I'm sure that wasn't there the last time. Um, but yeah, Steve's saying there, having seen the first Men on the Moon, I'd love to see men walk on Mars. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, sadly. But there's got to be other stuff. Yeah, sustainable kind of cars that can run on batteries that don't use fossil fuels, being able to exist with food that. So have you got that as well, then, Steve? Can you not? What I did was I thought you could only. I thought you're looking at the I thought you were looking at the chat on YouTube because what I did was on this kind of dock thing, you can go up to the top. There's three little dots. If you go up to the top, you can then turn off the reactions, and that turns off that annoying heart thing. Yeah, being able to exist and eat food that doesn't involve cruelty to animals. Um, yeah, what else? I mean, obviously, I'd love to see like neglect and rape and paedophilia. I'd love to see all these things stamped out, but sadly, I don't think that's ever going to happen. So anyway, listen, Milfy, not a great answer if I'm being honest. I always appreciate you taking time to ask me something, mate. Thank you very much. Right, Peter Thompson, 6457. Question for next waffle: do you own or have you tried a VR headset? Personally, I love VR gaming, and now with Unreal Engine's Injector, we can play retro games in VR. Mario Kart when you're actually driving the kart in VR. Really? First part of that question is yes, I do. I've got the Oculus Quest, which is over there. I've not powered it up for a while. I do. I had a lengthy conversation with Delboy about this quite a long time ago. It always annoys me when people say VR is what was it they say? A gimmick. No, I'm sorry, a gimmick is just something that amuses you for about 10 seconds and you watch it a couple of times and then you go, all right, okay, that's it, and you're bored. It's not a gimmick. It's a legitimate way to play games. It's a completely different sort of perspective on gaming from what most people are used to. Um, but it's one of these things, and you know what? I always laugh at people. You tend to find that people that knock these things, they've never even tried it. Because I've got a couple of mates that they never really they thought, yeah, I'm not bored about VR. And then I showed them what's it called, Half-Life Alyx, and they're like, holy shit, this is mental, absolutely mental in a good way. So I do have a VR headset. I've not been using it for a while. Hopefully it still works. I need to check that out. So what's it called? Unreal Engines Injector, and you can play retro games in VR. Did any of you guys? I did. What do you call it? Talk about it in last week's waffle. Did any of you guys try the 3D? No, yeah, it's the Virtua Boy running Virtual Boy running on the 3DS, and you actually get to play the Virtual Boy games in 3D. And I've got to say, it is bloody impressive. It really, really is. When you consider that the VR, the Virtual Boy, is probably, I don't know when it came out. I don't know, maybe 2000 and I don't know, 2002, 2003. In fact, let's. Why should I guess when I've got the power of the internet right at my fingertips? Virtua Boy. It's called the Virtual Boy. Yeah, there we go. Oh, bloody hell, it's actually a lot earlier than I thought. The Virtual Boy is the Virtual Boy is a video game console developed and released by Nintendo in 1995. Holy shit. Yeah, let's have a quick look. Oh, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it came out on the 14th of August 1995 and it sold for $179. Uh, Yeah, it probably goes for quite a bit more now. But yeah, it's one of these things again. It's like the original the Oculus Quest and all that kind of stuff. People, the amount of hate that you see for the Virtual Boy, people say, "Oh yeah, it gives you headaches. Yeah, you can't use it. You got a splitting headache. You got a migraine." It's like, have you ever actually tried it? No. Oh, so you're just looking at the internet and saying you're reading what you've saw and thinking that's true. Well, I can categorically say I've used that for like half an hour at a time, and it's fine. I wouldn't want to have it stuck to my head for hours on end, but for a system that came out in 1995 to offer what it did, I mean it's the same sort of 3D effect as the 3DS. It doesn't, you're not, it's not immersive. You're not like it's not around you, but excuse me, Um, it gives you the depth. It's the same kind of 3D that you get when you used to go to the cinema. Do they still, by the way, Dell, do they still do 3D films? I don't think I couldn't actually tell you the last time I did watched a 3D film. Um, I'm going to put my neck in the line here and say that I find 3D films a gimmick. And the reason is, anytime that I've been to see a 3D film, I don't know, after 5 minutes, my brain switches off and I actually forget that it's in 3D, or the 3D is so kind of non-immersive that I end up completely forgetting all about it. To the point that if you were to ask me, what films have you seen in 3D? I'd be like, Avatar. I knew that because that was the kind of big one. I can't honestly remember. Can't honestly remember anything else I've seen in 3D, and I have seen a lot of stuff. Um, but have you watched the film The Beekeeper yet? I haven't, Craig. Actually, I'm going to write that down. What is that about? Have I heard about it? I think I might have actually. The Beekeeper. I've not seen the sequel, Dale, for Avatar. Beekeeper. There we go. What is that about, Craig? Let me know. So anyway, wait a minute. I'm going off topic here just for a change. Yeah, I'll need to, what do you call it? In fact, I might actually watch it tonight if I've got time. I'll need to check that thing. Unreal. I'm going to write that down. Ah, okay. I don't mind Jason Stratham. Jason Stratham is like all these kind of superheroes. He doesn't play, not doesn't play. He doesn't play a character. He plays Jason Stratham in every film. What's it called? Unreal Injector. Unreal Engine Injector. Right, I'll need to check that out. But yeah, I do like the VR headset. I don't watch it all that often. Um, I want to kind of bring Dale into this conversation for a second. Dale, you've got the Meta Quest 3, and I know you were pretty impressed with it, as was I. I've never seen it, but I did watch your video, your kind of review video. Are you still using it? I know you were really sort of taken with it, the sort of power and that kind of stuff. It is an upgrade from the Meta Quest 2, but interested to know, are you still using it, or is it one of these things that a bit like my VR, you like it and then you don't use it and then you forget about it? Interested to know. Let me know, Dale. Right, anyway, thank you very much, Peter, for that question. Legendary Whizball question for next week. Have you ever thought about retiring in a country other than Scotland? My job has seen me live in New Zealand, which is where I'm from, China, Qatar, Singapore, and Japan, but I've decided to retire in the Philippines. Do you use it for games, Dale, or is it just for films? I know that was the main reason, wasn't it? But I've decided to retire in the Philippines. It's sunny, it's warm, the people are friendly, and it's very cheap to live. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of reasons to retire in a cold country with a high cost of living when you can live on an island for cheap. That sounds like absolute paradise. Have I ever thought about retiring anywhere else? Yes. Will I retire anywhere else other than Scotland? Probably not. And it's you know what? There's multiple reasons. The biggest one would be money or lack of. I don't, I'm going to be working until I'm probably 70. My pension's going to be completely pish. So yeah, I'm going to have to keep working on. So there's a money aspect. I mean, do I have anything keeping me in Scotland? I mean, once Ava, decides to kind of fly the nest, so to speak, and do her own thing, because she said to me she doesn't want to live in Scotland, she wants to kind of live abroad. Um, I've obviously got my girlfriend. If I didn't have a girlfriend and I didn't have Ava and I had money, I think I would look at moving abroad, definitely. I don't want to start talking about the subject that I'm going to talk about on next Waffle, but the UK it's not as good a place to live as it once was. Still way better in a lot of places, but the weather coupled with, I mean, prices. I know we kind of keep going on about it, but the cost of living right now in the UK is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. When I My outgoings right now, if I was earning, let me think, if I was earning the same money that I was earning 10 years ago, I wouldn't actually be able to afford my life at the moment because my outgoings have just rocketed. They've gone astronomically high with the increase in everything. The cost of living, the cost of food, cost of petrol. Um, my mortgage has rocketed, and it's like holy shit. It's actually quite frightening. I think to myself, if I lost my job, you know, I would need to get a decent job to be able to keep my head above water. Um, but yeah, to answer the question, if I could live elsewhere, you know, absolutely. I've always fancied New Zealand. I used to kind of quite fancy Canada. Never had any interest in what you call it, Australia. Don't know why, just nah. But yeah, New Zealand. I think that would be my kind of country of choice. That or Canada. The funny thing is, my dad, when he was just a young lad, he actually emigrated to Canada, and I don't know what age he was, early 20s, and then he got homesick when he came back to Scotland. So if he hadn't got homesick, I probably wouldn't be making this because I wouldn't exist. There you go. Dale saying the Quest 3 has just got a patch now, native 120 for visuals and a battery extend. That's good. That's actually pretty good. They've extended the battery. Um, will I buy a Meta Quest 3? Possibly. I mean, the big thing for me is being able to watch films in the cinema. It's awesome. But because I got my decent surround sound, I like watching films on my TV because I've got good sound. So don't know. I probably will get one at some point. So anyway, thank you very much, legendary Whizball. Right, LFC Gamer and Vlogs. In fact, not and Vlogs. LFC Gamer Vlogs. That was a good waffle. Cheers as always. Question for next Friday. Is there a place you used to adore visiting but has gone proper downhill to the point of not wanting to return anytime soon? Only a few weeks ago I was on my holidays in Llandudno in Wales, and suffice to say, oh, hang on, read more. It's definitely not the seaside resort of yesteryear for sure. I'd go as far as to say that apart from the sea views, I might as well have stayed at home. Predictably, it's now full of these vape shops, Turkish barbers, and kebab shops. Sadly, most of the pubs I can recall are long gone in favour of one of the three places mentioned, or another charity shop, because why the hell not? Sure, the hotel was very nice, but came back feeling underwhelmed. Um, it's it's an obvious one, and I hope Steve doesn't take offence to this. It's got to be Blackpool. Blackpool back in the 80s was quite simply Mecca to us gamers. It really was. As I've mentioned loads of times, I didn't have any. I didn't have any. What do you call it? Just noticed I've been talking for 40 minutes. Holy shit! Pardon me very much. I didn't have any kind of arcades close by, and once a year, I mean, my mum and dad, they hated the whole Blackpool Scarborough thing. We used to go down to Essex camping. It was a place called Roydon. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it. We used to drive down there every year, go camping. There was absolutely bugger all to do, but that was why my mum and dad enjoyed it. So they never ever took us to Blackpool. I think we once went to, I think we once went to Scarborough for the day, and that was it. But yeah, once a year there used to be a thing called what the hell was it called? I can't actually remember what it was called. In fact, it's not even what I'm thinking about. Once a year there was in Livingston there was like a community organised trip to Blackpool. Think of the Jolly Boys out in Only Fools and Horses. It was like that. Excuse me. And once a year they used to run a bus down to Blackpool, and you turned up. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. You would leave, and you paid. I think it was like £5. I mean, it was hardly anything. And then you'd drive down to Blackpool. You'd stop halfway down. You'd go in for a piss, get a shot of an arcade machine, and then you would drive down to Blackpool. And then they would let you out until about you had to come back at 6 o'clock at night, something like that. So me and my mate went a couple of times, and it was fantastic. It was so exciting because we're talking like mid 80s. Um, video games were new. The arcades were the place you wanted to hang about, and I would go to like the local chip shop or sports centre, and you'd get to play one arcade machine, and then you'd go down to Blackpool, and it was just arcade after arcade, and these arcades. I mean, Steve was here back in the 80s. It was something else. It was a sight to behold. You had you just got engulfed with the music and the noise and all the sound effects of the games. And some of them were quite dingy, but they were lit up with the kind of glorious kind of pulsing visuals and pixels, and it was something else. It was absolutely something else. So we used to go down there, drive down on the bus, and then I says we'd spend the whole day. I remember evening Jamie. What was I going to say? I remember one year going down, and we're to be back. I think we're to be back for like 6 o'clock at night, and we ended up kind of saying, "Oh fuck it, right? We'll just have one more go. We'll have one more go." And before we knew it, it was like five to six. And the bus driver said, "If you're not back within like 5 minutes of when we're leaving, you're getting left." So we kind of left it to the very last minute, and we thought, "Fucking hell, we're going to miss the bus." So me and my mate we ran back, and quite literally just before I got in the bus, I needed the toilet, and it wasn't the piss type; it was the other one. So I had to then run about and look for a bus, and not look for a bus, look for a toilet, which I think costs like 10 pence or something. It's one of these toilets that charges you. So I got to the toilet, and then I got to the bus. I can't remember what time it was. It was like quarter past, and everybody cheered when I got in the bus, and the bus driver was none too happy. So yeah, Blackpool was just a fantastic place back in the 80s. I've obviously been back since when I've been down at like the Play Blackpool things, and it's like a lot of these kind of sort of touristy, holiday resorts from like the 70s and 80s. People don't go to them now, and they're tired. They're needing money spent. I mean, I watched a video a few weeks ago where the guy he wanted to film like Blackpool, just not at the seafront, but like the shops leading off the seafront. And it was actually quite sad, all these shops and burger places and all that. They were empty, they were empty or boarded up. And the thing is, it's not just Blackpool. Even in Edinburgh, I mean, the main street in Edinburgh is called Princess Street. Even now, or not even now, I should say now, it's I mean, that was the place. That was like the sort of the jewel in the crown of Scotland. Edinburgh Castle in the hill, when you had Princess Street. It was a beautiful thing. Now half the shops are closed. They're boarded up, and it's depressing. And Blackpool is exactly the same. So yeah, I hate to say it, Steve, but Blackpool was a place that I loved. It was exciting, but it's never moved on. It's as tacky as hell. I mean, I remember going down to play Blackpool, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, maybe more than that. It was the first time I'd been to Blackpool for many, many, many years. And just as we got into Blackpool, there was there was this rather large lass with a bride. She was dressed in a wedding dress, and it was like bride to be, and she was carrying this massive inflatable cock. And I thought, welcome to Blackpool. So yeah, but I still enjoy going to Blackpool for the arcades and what have you. But it's like all these kind of nobody wants to go to the beach anymore for a holiday. Paul saying the best thing about Princess Street is that you can race up and down it in Forza Horizon. Yeah, I mean Edinburgh is nice. I prefer Glasgow myself, but anyway, we'll move on from that. So thank you very much, LFC. Wee Bob saying enjoyed listening along. Hope you have a good weekend. Sorry to hear about your friend getting berated on another channel. Yeah, I was talking about that channel. Just arseholes. Sadly, the world does seem to thrive in negativity, as can be seen just by scrolling through the news and the topics they choose to highlight. On a sort of funny note, you may have heard about the Willy Wonka experience. Yeah, I did. It's been all over. Evening, Scott, and evening, Ben. I've got a question from Ben. I'm going to look at that. Uh, yeah, the Willy Wonka experience. Apparently, it was just exactly what it says, a Willy Wonka experience. You could take your kids along and they'd meet Willy Wonka and get to meet the Oompa Loompas and all that kind of stuff. And it was quite literally an abandoned warehouse with a couple of bits and pieces put on. Um, you quite literally got a drink of juice and a single jelly bean. It went viral. It went completely viral, and the people that were like the actors that were taking part, they were on like Good Morning Britain and all this kind of stuff. They've kind of got their 15 minutes of fame. But yeah, I was mentioning last week about there's this guy who he goes into car dealers and he'll just say to them, "Yeah, I'm here to film," and they'll be like, "Have you got permission to film?" No, 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 I don't need permission. Well, you do. No, I don't. And he was going to like hotels, excuse me, and he actually goes out his way. Pardon me. He goes out his way to provoke people to get in an argument, and it's making me watch. So that's why he does it because people are watching. But it pisses me off that people are basically acting like they're acting like cunts to get views, and I would never do that. I would never ever do that. I mean, I can be an arsehole at times, but I think we all can. I think we all can. But yeah, there's definitely a trend in video and like YouTube channels where they're deliberately being obnoxious and insulting to people because it's getting viewers. You know, don't like that. I don't like that the way it's going. Evening Google Street View. Um, Scott's asking, what do you think about Nintendo pulling the Switch emulator and the makers having to pay a £2 million fine? Wow, really? Is this a Windows? Is this an emulator for Windows? What do I think about Nintendo pulling the Switch? Well, you know what? Here's the thing. If I was Nintendo and I've spent all this money on a console which you're still selling, and then somebody came along and coded an emulator which effectively lets people play the games for free, I would be pissed off. There's no question of it. I would be a bit pissed off that they're doing that. So they're having to pay £2 million. How's that going to work? Because is the Switch emulator a commercial thing? Were they making money? Because if it's just some wee bedroom coder that's coded this thing, how the hell is he going to afford to pay 2 million? I mean, I don't know. I wasn't aware of that at all. If the guy or the person or company, whatever, that that made the emulator were charging people for it, um, I don't know. It's a weird one. It was for the 3DS. Ah, right, okay. I don't know. It's a difficult one. If they weren't making any money selling the emulator, then I think a £2 million fine is pretty hefty. I don't know how somebody would even begin to afford to pay that. I think a slap round the knuckles, you know, take it down, don't do it again. £2 million fine. They're obviously going to do that to scare the bejesus out of anybody that wants to kind of do it again. So yeah, the grey areas are the Patreon. Mm, Again, you're paying. I've made a video of a thing called Techno Parrot, which is an emulator which runs games that came out in the last 20 years, and they have a Patreon. They did have a Patreon. You could play so many games. You could play something like 75% of the games with the emulator, not pay anything. But what they did was, if you wanted to play the last 25%, you had to sign up to Patreon. And at first I thought, wait a minute, that's a bit shit because they're making money on these old games. But what they're not doing, they're only charging you. They're writing an emulator, and all they're saying to you is if you want the full functionality of it, then you can sign up to a Patreon. Now, a couple of weeks ago, the Patreon thing, whatever it is, pulled the plug on this emulator. So I'm wondering if that's based on what's happened here. Um, they were making 40,000 a month in Patreon. Well, they're making a shitload of money. They're making a shitload of money. I don't know. 2 million does seem pretty hefty, but if I was Nintendo, I would be pissed off. So I don't think the guys that have coded that thing have a lot to complain about. They might feel pretty hard done by with the fine, which 2 million's a fuckload of money. But yeah, right before it goes off the top of the screen, Ben Dust, he's asking me, how do you feel about the possibility your channel is becoming a really important history record? In my honest opinion, your interviews with 80s gaming developers are too important now to ever be deleted. Um, yeah, and somebody else, yeah, Jamie Maxwell, he's saying, not a bad question, Ben, the recent charity stream in particular. Yeah, you know what? Not trying to be arrogant or big-headed or anything, but I think that people like me and my mates, the Ted Dabney Experience lads, and everybody else that's kind of contributing to this kind of hobby, talking to these people, it is becoming, it's become part. We're documenting this hobby, because in 20, 30 years time, nobody's going to know who John Hare is or Jeff Mint or whatever. So yeah, watching these videos and people like myself talking to these guys, I think it is. I think it's part of history. I think they do play their part. Um, it's quite terrifying actually that this video could be getting watched 40 years from now when I'm dead. Yeah, but no, I do absolutely think that there's a lot of videos in YouTube could just be deleted because they're quite frankly pish. But yeah, it's a bit like MAME, that MAME exists to kind of document video games with a nice kind of side effect that you can actually play them as well. But no, YouTube is got its place. Interviews with like guys from the past. Absolutely, I think they're certainly helping to preserve this kind of hobby of ours. Jamie saying here, the same people behind Citra, the 3DS emulator. I can get behind that because it's an obsolete console, but with the Switch they had the crosshairs. Yeah, they were playing with fire. Absolutely. Hang on. Excuse me. Right, listen. Oh wait a minute. Uh, I've still got another couple of questions. I'll answer them, and then we're gonna watch a TV program before I call it a night. Uh, Matroid, hi Al. Here's a quick question. How are you getting on with Last of Us Part 2? Any closer to completing it? I only asked because I really enjoyed playing it when I did, but I must say it's not something I ever plan on going back to. It's not that I didn't like the game itself, far from it, as I thought it was brilliant. It's just that it was really miserable and depressing. um, I don't know how far I'm into it. I mean, I've probably been playing it. I've not played it for a good number of months. I need to get back to it. Um, the first Last of Us is one of my favourite video games of all time. I think it's phenomenal. I've played it and completed it about 3 or 4 times. The Last of Us 2, I'm not enjoying it quite as much as the first one. Um, the landscape, the world that you live in is just mind blowing. I mean, it's a beautiful game for a PlayStation 4 game. It's mind blowing, really nice. I don't know how far I'm into it. I don't know. I would probably say halfway, maybe slightly more. I sincerely hope I'm more than halfway because I I don't know if you guys are like that. The what do you call it? Yeah, I play these modern games, and I get to a point, all right, right, I'm enjoying it, but right, let's just finish it now. Let's end it. I don't want to keep going on and on and on and on and on. Cheers, LFC. Take care, buddy. Enjoy your food, mate. Yeah, I get to a point where I think, right, I want this game to end now, and I can move on to something else because I bought. It was like the remastered Resident Evil 4, which I've completed loads of times, not the remastered one. I bought it on day one, which was about 6 months ago, and I've deliberately not played it. I wanted to finish Last of Us 2, then move over. But I do enjoy it. I don't think it's as good as the first one. I think the first one was just better characters, not as depressing. But yeah, Last of Us 2 is a great game, so I will need to kind of get my finger out my arse and start playing it again. Uh, right, I'm going to try and pronounce this. A question from Cantam Cantaramarcus. Cantaramarcus. There we go. Instead of asking your viewers for questions, why not just peruse several indie retro websites for the week's news to give you something to talk about? And I think I did reply to that. I replied saying, I appreciate that, would help, but I simply don't have the time to watch other videos. And that's true. I don't. I've not got the time. I mean, I struggle to record stuff for YouTube. I've got other things that I do. I've got my hobbies. I've got my daughter. I've got dogs. All this kind of bollocks. Steve, yeah, that's weird. That's weird. I've noticed I've replied to comments in the past, and then when you go in later on, it's away. If you can think of your questions, Steve, please ask away, mate. Um, but no, you know me by now. I tend to find out games news because somebody will mention it on YouTube. I've not got the time to watch other people's videos to then say, "Oh, I'm going to talk about that." It would be a solution, but it's not what I'm going to do. I simply don't have the time. And the last one, let's have a look. There we go. Colin Jones. Councils are looking for any reason to not collect waste. Yeah, I can't remember what I was talking about. I was talking about rubbish or something. I think it was. That's no change there, you'd say. The Virtual Boy emulation makes me consider buying a 3DS, but not as a priority. When I have nothing else on my list, maybe. As for the twat, I'd click the dots by any video recommended of his channel. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good. Yeah, I'm talking about that arsehole that basically took the piss out of my mate Dave. That guy recording video on private property without permission is breaking law. Even in public places, there are laws. Strangely enough, even train spotters and stations need permission to take photos and videos, but that's rarely upheld. Yeah, right question. I know you're not a sports fan, but are there any sports for which you consider or which you wonder why the hell they exist? There's one, and I don't even know if it's a sport, and it's horse racing. To me, horse racing is, I know it's massively popular. I mean, there's millions and millions of people watch horse racing, but it's a sport that you don't really, if somebody wins a race, you don't say, oh, he's a world champion horse person. Horse racing only exists to allow betting, and I don't bet. I've not got anything against betting. I just don't bet. I can't be arsed. But the whole horse racing, watching horses run, there's the cruelty aspect as well, especially in like the Grand National when they make them jump over bloody jumps and they break their necks and what have you. But yeah, horse racing, what is the what is the point of it? Don't get it. Don't get it. I understand why they do it. Any other sports which I'm not interested in? Cricket, don't understand it. Never played it. But I do understand. I do appreciate that lots of people like cricket. But no, horse racing. Um, is definitely one. And right, I think Steve's remembered one of them. I can only remember one of them. If you suddenly had a load of free time, would you pick up a hobby you used to do in the past? No, if I had a lot of time, if I had triple the amount of spare time, I would take up the guitar properly. I mean, I've got the guitar sitting downstairs and I never use it, and I'm just kidding myself on that I'm going to learn it. I would learn the guitar. I would watch more films. I would read books. I was going to say read more books. I would just read books because I don't read at the moment. And I would also make more videos on YouTube, stuff that I used to do, like that was the year that was, and top tens and that kind of stuff that I don't do now because I just don't have the time. Um, so yeah, I would absolutely use the spare time. Would I take up a new hobby? Um, I'd like to get better at pool. Definitely. So I would love more time to be able to invest in everything that I do at the moment. So thank you, Steve. Right, listen, we're going to finish off. I'm just going to move that over there. We're going to finish off with a program. What's it called? It doesn't matter what it's called. It's a program I'm thinking from like the 1980s, going by the sort of the 1 minute little preview that I watched. It's called The Learning Machine, and this is season 1, and it's episode 1. Yeah, Learning Machine. What I need you to do before I start, can you please put a wee comment down below and tell me if it's too loud and if you can hear my voiceover. I'm going to do a wee bit commentary, whatever, but I want to watch and I want to let you enjoy it. I don't want me to become an irritating twat and talking over it. So this is The Learning Machine, Season 1, Episode 1. Let's watch it. How's the sound balance? Hopefully you can hear it all right. Hang on, move that up there. I've never seen this. How's the sound balance?
I think this is the biggest problem facing the country. And I want to try and ensure that the kids of today are trained with the skills of tomorrow. It's no good training them with the skills that gave their fathers and grandfathers jobs. It's like generals fighting the battles of yesteryear. And that is the reason why we've pushed ahead with computers into schools. We now have computers in every secondary school in Britain. By the end of this year, it'll be 3/4 of all primary schools. No other country in the world has got that degree of penetration. I want youngsters, boys and girls, leaving school at 16 to actually be able to operate a computer. A lot of their lives are going to depend upon that.
It's a message we've heard rather a lot recently. We've got to take on the new technologies or go under. Above all, we've got to make today's children computer literate because they are inheriting this new information technology world.
A high-pitched voice.
The computer has transformed some jobs and removed the need for others. Computers have already dramatically changed the way some children can interact with the world. If a braille machine is coupled with a voice synthesizer and a word processor, blind children can exercise their writing capabilities to the full.
Just change the question and have to add some more data lines.
Yeah. You gotta do that every time.
In general education, lots of people are claiming that learning to program a computer is good for the head, in the same way that learning Latin used to be good for the head.
Be duller.
This is the computer literacy machine in action. Pupils can now go for the new technology courses. And a lot of money is being spent on new machines, new buildings and extra, specially qualified staff. In the words of Kenneth Baker's promise, the kids of today are being trained with the skills of tomorrow.
Now, you go back up to... Can we make it wider?
There are other claims for the computer in education. It will transform relationships between pupils and teachers. Learning will become a cooperative act, and the old authority patterns will vanish.
You're good at this.
The old cub monitors, lovely.
The public story is always related to improving the quality of education. But it's hard not to suspect that there is an interest in saving money by replacing teachers altogether.
Sorry, Mark, it's called The Learning Machine. This is season 1, episode 1. It's got 21. It's only 25 minutes long, so it's not too long, folks.
If all goes well, eventually we won't need
The
schools
old
at all.
smash windows and
They'll
graffiti.
simply lie empty and unused. The children are all at home, living and learning in the bosom of the family.
I like my mum and dad.
The public promises that politicians make about education make me nervous. I get especially uneasy when they deal with the areas I understand: information technology and computers. This programme began with a promise, a boast and an implied threat from Kenneth Baker. The promise is that British school leavers will be able to operate computers. The boast is that Britain leads the world in school computer ownership. And the threat is you don't get tomorrow's jobs without tomorrow's skills.
We had something like 5 BBCs in our high school, and that was
What does learn to operate
it.
a computer mean? Switch it on, ask it questions, program it? The boast is silly. Britain leads the world in underpowered microcomputers. And the threat is just perverse, because it is not true that using your school's new British micro leads straight to your new British job. Bev White, like many teachers, has had to disillusion parents on this score.
Print. Quite a lot of parents seem to think that just sitting in front of a computer is going to guarantee their children are going to get a job. Certainly being familiar with using computers for various activities is good for them. But then on the other hand, not everyone is going to be using computers, not everyone's going to be programming with computers.
Advertising is now trying to push computers in the same way that the encyclopedia was pushed years ago at the door.
He looks
Buy
like
your
a bit of
child
trouble,
this
I think. Look at
and
him.
all his problems will be solved. Worse than that, in a sense, I think they're making the parents feel guilty if they don't buy them.
He's the kind of teacher that went
Your
out and
child
had a
will be
fag at lunchtime.
underprivileged. And parents are putting a lot of money into it, and unfortunately, they are also susceptible to the fact that as long as their children are seen to operate the machines, they have a feeling that their child have got a competence in the use of those machines.
Then you do shift.
Schools are keen to demonstrate pupils' computer competence. There's no better draw for a parents' evening. Courtwood Primary School in Surrey has one of the best pupil-computer ratios in the south-east corner.
Push that, keep that down. Then with the other hand, press P. Keep
You
both
do
down
that
together.
for me, I shall drop my hand
Now you
back.
can take it off. And then you press Control, and you get the pixels, where the pixels up there. Now you can just
Pixels?
press any of those, C, D, E, D, C, and RFD.
When the computers first arrived in schools, very often, nobody knew what to do with them. Teachers weren't trained, and there was no software.
Don't remember
In
seeing
the case
this
of Courtwood,
on
it was an
TV at the time.
enthusiastic
I mean,
teacher,
it's pure
Ron
80s,
Gandolfo,
early
who led
80s.
the way.
I actually trained up some children, which of course they were immediately motivated and keen and geared up.
What's that?
And to actually show
Gandolfo.
other members of
What a
staff
brilliant name.
how to use the
Ron
micros,
Gandolfo.
that they were naturally pleased to be able to do that. So I trained girls and boys up to set the machines up, to be able to load and run software, so that they would come in at 8:30 each morning, get the micros out of the cupboards and set them up, and run the software ready for the teacher and his or her class at the beginning of each day. So initially, it
I
was
do remember that plotter moving shadow, yep.
But learning to load the software is only the very first step. What are the programs good for? In other words, what difference is it making to the learning process? The programs the children are using in this infant's class are just variations on traditional classroom work.
Never seen a white hat. On the white hat.
Cheers, Matoid. Take care, mate.
Yellow. Yellow. Black.
When people say to me, oh, why do you need computers? We're not actually changing our style of teaching or the way we organise our classrooms. We're actually doing exactly the same things. There are lots of different things going on in the primary classroom, and this is just one more activity, so it actually enhances what we're doing. It helps.
Sorry.
Back at the parents' evening, they're being taught to use a more educational game by 8 and 9-year-olds.
Should suddenly come off the island and find your savings.
She reckons we keep going. We'll come out standing on the This one, okay then, so that comes through.
Where do you want to press spacebar?
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what you're doing?
Well, we're playing this game called
There's a
Into the
smarmy
Unknown, which
get
is
teacher.
like an adventure game. And you have a blank grid which resolves itself into a map. You start somewhere in the middle of the grid, and then the
I loved
computer
programming basic.
tells
You
you
get back
where
into it
you
again.
are, and then you have to make the decision of where you want to go, and then the computer tells you what you found there. At the moment, we're stuck in the jungle, and we're losing points rapidly, whereas before we were doing quite well. Yeah.
And how did you learn to use it tonight? I mean, because you've just sat down.
Just by watching the girls and common sense.
And discussion, lots of discussion. Well, actually, we're quarrelling, but that's only because we were doing all right until we got stuck in the jungle, and now we're stuck in the jungle.
It's programs like Into the Unknown, where children are actually working in front of the computer together, discussing their work, and an awful lot of work goes on away from the computer, which is just as important, if not more important, because they're using textbooks. They go to the library for encyclopedias, reference books. An enormous amount of work can come out of a project which can be computer-based, but it's the work that goes on away from it as well.
Into the Unknown is a game based on the adventures of 15th century Portuguese explorers. It began life as a classroom project pack for secondary schools, before the micro came in. The computer in this case is simply a new prop for traditional classroom activity.
Before you do Into the Unknown, you have to do all things in a folder.
Couldn't tell you the last time I used a bloody pencil and the rubber.
Tales,
Mental.
all things like that, and you have to learn things on the ship. So when you do the journey, you know what to do and everything.
So you've got to decide how much food to take with you and water and all that sort of thing.
But you can't overload your ship, or otherwise you'll be sunk.
They're learning from fact sheets that go with.
Yes, and discussion, and working out, well, if we're in jungle here, what should we do to get out of it? Decision making. And drawing maps. And remembering what we're doing next, learning to read this sheet, and, well, I should think you improve your reading quite well as well.
1,315 pounds of salt pork this time. Done that yet? Pork. Your score of this topic was Express Space Film.
That is exactly how I remember school.
And then it's Into the Unknown.
I was a wee bit older than they kids enough back then, but
Each town is shown by a green star.
And certainly in primary schools, topic-based work and project-based work, of course, has been in the forefront of primary education. That's how lots of teachers operate.
By row 4, it's B4. There.
Many of the things that we've long held dear in primary education, such as children taking responsibility for their own learning and children learning through doing, fit in very well with the use of the microcomputer. And I think in the primary schools we can build upon the philosophical and underlying attitudes of the teachers much better than we can in the secondary sector.
a bit Leslie Juddish, I think.
Once the computer began to come into schools, it was quick to join maths and sciences as a boys' subject.
There's that plotter thing.
The girls tend to be overlooked.
And I've boxed myself in.
How are you getting girls interested in computers?
Girls have taken a bit of a back seat, and of course it's we're being told perhaps by our advisors to watch out for that type of thing, so we're naturally encouraging girls to take as much interest as boys. So I have purposely had mixed boys and girls demonstrating on the computers this evening for that very reason.
I think it's much less of a problem in the primary school than it is at secondary level. I think the girls are prepared to fight for their place on the micro at primary level, if you like. But at secondary, where they become much more concerned with traditional sex roles and so on, then many of the girls are tending to drop out. But I think at primary, provided we deliberately give an eye to what's going on and make quite sure that the girls aren't elbowed off, I think the girls will want to use them.
Some of the most successful uses of computers in schools depend on commercial rather than educational software. In Ron Gandolfo's top class, children are using a word processing package to write and edit their school magazine.
They have no fears or frustrations with handwriting, and consequently I think they can give their all into the thought processes, into actually what they want to write. And they actually have this purpose for writing because they know that it's going to be printed off and distributed and lots of people are going to read it. And that gives them great purpose.
But the use of word processors at such an early stage is bound to raise fears about the loss of handwriting skills.
We'll have enormous debates in schools just about that, like the biro in the 60s. Should we allow that kind of device into school? And the answer is, we will have no choice, because they'll be out there, and this is one educational innovation that isn't stimulated directly from within. It's actually responding to what's changing outside.
No, you've got it on space.
A special.
Yeah, you're probably right. She's probably
There is
80-year-old
no
now.
educational philosophy behind the slogan, "A micro in every school." In fact, the government is touting an economic panacea rather than an educational revolution. The main beneficiaries of the Micros in Schools scheme have been three small British computer firms. The educational benefits of school computers vary. Whilst Corkwood uses computers in imaginative ways, it is not perfect or typical. Plenty of primary schools put computers to unimaginative and boring uses, for example to do arithmetic drills or issue dinner tickets. And when we get to the secondary school, the micro is often restricted to older boys, or if you're lucky, older girls and boys for exam classes. Much examined computer studies is a dreary mishmash of out-of-date industrial information, binary maths, and the learning of eccentric programming languages like BASIC. The chaotic situation in the schools, where a 10-year-old may do interesting programming projects and then wait 3 or more years before touching a computer again, is mirrored by the patchy provision of teacher training. At Croydon, they are trying to liberate the micro from the computer studies department. Here, secondary school teachers from all subject areas spend half a day a week, spread over 6 months, learning to teach a new subject called information technology.
I remember old information technology, what the hell? Buzzword of the 80s.
Somehow chop this little lot up.
Why don't we leave a space here for the latest sports news? We can get that from Prestel or CFAX.
Yeah, okay.
Croydon's approach is to acquaint teachers, and therefore their pupils, with the information handling capabilities of the computer, using it as a tool to support their classroom work. They don't see the computer as just an object of study in itself.
Everybody, in a sense, I mean, all teachers ought to be teachers of information handling skills that they should use as they go along. So the history teachers should be using databases where they can actually get at primary sources. English teachers, obviously, the kind of thing we've been doing today would be quite valid as an English lesson, except that actually, from this approach, the pupils would have more power over the information. We're talking about information handling, not just receiving. It's not just comprehension, it's actually getting in there and editing and revising and getting things to fit in tight spaces and so on.
And I think you will have seen today, looking at some of the activities, that many of them have to
Got to
spend
love
a
all
great
the
deal of
boffins,
time
eh?
away from the machine, even when they're using the machine. So when they're doing an activity as they are today in creating a newspaper, an awful lot of time is spent talking in groups, in planning, in discussing, in laying out pages, in looking at final products using the photocopier, and it's not all the time sitting at a keyboard. And I think there's this sometimes a worry in people's minds that information technology means children children sitting in serried ranks, bashing keyboards, gazing like zombies at screens. And I hope that in the activities we're doing, this is clearly seen not to be the case.
As opposed to killing zombies that we do now.
Just put that.
It's quite the sweater of that large lady over on the right hand side.
Yeah. To protest about rate capping.
Right, well, let's paste it up then.
In fact, one of the things that we would be keen to say is that often
At Croydon, they are trying to liberate the micro from the Computer Studies department. Here, secondary school teachers from all subjects
these courses are putting enough resources into them.
Teachers very badly need proper training and the time and facilities to support the development of skills in information technology. Apart from learning about a rapidly changing area, teachers face a variety of hard questions which they have to solve themselves and are expected to answer when parents ask them. For example, which computers should be bought? Which software is valuable and useful? In fact, both parents and teachers now find themselves equally unable to answer these same questions.
Do you feel that there is enough commercially available educational software at the moment?
For the computers we have in school.
Computers in general.
There is an enormous amount of educational software available, and part of the job of the Teachers' Centre in Croydon is in fact that they stock a far greater range than we have here. So it's our job as teachers to go to the Teachers' Centre, see what is actually available and pick and choose the software that we would like to use in our schools for a particular situation.
As parents, we don't have that facility. You know, we've got to go into WH Smith's or wherever. And I don't feel there's enough available at the moment for the educational side.
One of the messages we're getting from publishers currently is that educational software in the home market is not by and large good news. Anything that's got educational on it doesn't sell. Anything that's got adventure or game or something that looks like Space Invaders on the front of it sells like hotcakes.
Is there a risk that parents are actually being conned into getting some stuff for home use that isn't really up to scratch?
Well, there's no question of risk about it. It's a fact. It's good old-fashioned 1950s educational technology tacked on to new technology.
We thought of calling this series Making the Least of the Micro.
things like
Teachers face a variety of hard questions which they have to solve themselves and are expected to answer when parents ask them. For example, which computers should be bought? Which software is valuable and useful? In fact, both parents and teachers now find themselves equally unable to answer these same questions.
Do you feel that there is enough commercially available educational software at the moment?
For the computers we have in school.
Computers in general.
There is an enormous amount of educational software available, and part of the job of the Teachers' Centre in Croydon is in fact that they stock a far greater range than we have here. So it's our job as teachers to go to the Teachers' Centre, see what is actually available and pick and choose the software that we would like to use in our schools for a particular situation.
As parents, we don't have that facility. You know, we've got to go into WH Smith's or wherever. And I don't feel there's enough available at the moment for the educational side.
One of the messages we're getting from publishers currently is
I
that
couldn't, sorry folks,
software in the home market
I
is
didn't
not
realise
by and
the
large
microphone
good
had
news.
gone off.
Anything that's got
A minute.
educational.
I didn't realise the microphone had gone off. The sound in this video went all weird and I had to unplug and plug in the headset again. So sorry about interrupting you folks. I'm just going to let you finish and watch the last couple of minutes.
On it doesn't sell. Anything that's got adventure or game or something that looks like Space Invaders on the front of it sells like hotcakes.
Is there a risk that parents are actually being conned into getting some stuff for home use that isn't really up to scratch?
Well, there's no question of risk about it. It's a fact. It's good old-fashioned 1950s educational technology tacked on to new technology.
We thought of calling this series Making the Least of the Micro. The politicians made a variety of attractive promises when they pushed the micros into schools. but their minds were on making education cheaper, the job market, and supporting British manufacturers. I believe that computers could, with proper software and adequate teacher training, radically improve education. But the current position is that we're throwing shoddy software at the half-price micros that were touted to the schools. At the same time, there are now more than 2 million microcomputers in British homes. Many bought by parents hoping to help children with their schoolwork or hoping to help them become computer literate. Already many of these parents are disillusioned, and they're right to be so. I believe the only way of realising the long-term educational promise of the new technologies is for us to be fierce in our opposition to pointless or low-quality applications of computers when we meet them in schools or the home.
So that was a BBC production as well. I absolutely love watching all these things. Again, I apologise about stopping the video. It's because the sound went all weird and I didn't know if you guys could still hear it. And yeah, I did notice the Quality Street tin, as you say, when Quality Street was good. Anyway, listen, folks, that is it. I've managed to get an hour and a half out. I thought it was going to be literally about 20 minutes. Thank you very much for taking time to join me on a Friday evening. I hope you have a really nice night. Have a great weekend, and all good well. I will be along on usual time, Sunday, 7 o'clock till 9. I'll decide what I'm going to do then. But until next time, folks, let me just tee up the outro. As always, thank you very much for watching.